That's reality. There we go. I think that's actually too high. I'm going to crouch down and be on the laptop a lot. I'm trying to give you guys the best camera angle. I've been playing around with the setup a little bit for the past couple of streams. But today we're going to be going in and talking about the flower stage. I feel like that's everyone's favorite part of the growing journey. It's definitely mine. And I want to learn a little bit more about what really goes on during the flower stage, how those buds really come to be, and how the process goes when it's making cannabinoids, terpenes, flavonoids, all of that beautiful stuff that we have come to enjoy as growers and consumers and medical patients alike. So we're going to get up in here and details about the flower stage. Cannabis. Also, just now, today, I set up ads. I'm super excited for that. Very happy to finally be monetized after 4 years on this platform. It's a big honor, and we're almost at 2,100. Just to let you guys know, the fact that we surpassed 2,000 is absolutely crazy, and thank you guys. But we're going to be doing the 2K celebration on Sunday. And it's going to be the Coffee with Cannabis show. And it's going to be a live show. The public part is going to come out, except the public part isn't going to have the rest of the live show with it. So if you want to hit that live show, you want to see the Coffee with Cannabis, you're going to have to join my membership program, but you will see me celebrate 2K. So everyone's going to be able to see it. It's just, the members are going to be able to see it early. So that's a couple announcements on where the content's going to be. And also I'm working on a video about recommending books. So I've read a lot of books about cannabis over the years. I've wanted to learn about it, and I've been obsessing over it. And I have delved into the passion quite a bit, and I've had some moderate success. I've read quite a few books over the years about growing this plant, and I want to recommend some of the best ones to you guys. Well, some of my favorites. Maybe not the best. Whew. Okay, so on the first page here, actually getting into the stream now. The flower stage of a cannabis plant is when the plant begins to produce flowers. The flowers are the plant's reproductive organs and contain the male and female reproductive cells. The male flowers produce pollen, which is used to fertilize the female flowers. The female flowers produce the seeds, which grow into plants. And they actually have a week-by-week guide in this article, and hopefully it goes into more detail than what I know, because I really love learning things on stream with you guys. So what is the flowering stage? We kind of know what the flowering stage is, or at least I do. When do you start flowering a weed plant? So when to start, hopefully this will go over some signs to look for, or an idea for good timing. One of the most crucial elements in ensuring the success of your plants is knowing when to switch your plants from the vegetative stage to the flowering stage. You will decrease the final yield if you switch too soon, which is true, but what's too soon? It's very hard to define what is too soon, because you have to accommodate for your grow space. You can move on to the flowering stage once your plant is developed and robust and has a robust root system. Start the flowering stage after careful consideration of numerous factors, such as the maximum size the plant can achieve within your setup, the types of strains being grown, the source of the plant from seed or clone, the growing method being used. Those are all very important factors when it comes to switching to the flower stage. You don't want to put anything unhealthy into the flower stage, which is why it's good to start with photos and not start with autos. I think autos are the more advanced genetic because you get a limited amount of time and you get one chance to grow that pheno in most cases. So I would say those are more a advanced way of going about it. Like after you have some experience with growing, maybe you can go into the autos, but I would start with photos. Make sure you have a good chance of getting that plant into flower and actually making something of it. When making the switch, you must be mindful of those factors and how they affect the harvest. Be cautious while adopting strategies and procedures. Others utilize skills because every grow is different. Plants can double in size when switching the flower. Most growers switch when the tent canopy is half full or after 8 weeks of veg, whichever comes first. I typically switch to flower in week 9 when growing 4 photoperiod strains in a 4x4 tent. This allows for the 2 weeks of seedling stage and the 7 weeks of vegetative stage. I used to veg for a full 8 weeks, but when it was getting closer to the lights than desired, even with the scrogging and other low stress training. So that's something to keep in mind. That stretch will take those plants to a very high level. They'll double in size, some will triple in size. I'm sure there are some genetics out there that will quadruple in size. So how do you start it? You switch it from 12-12, from 18-6. So week 1 of the flowering stage, what is going on in week 1? The plant begins to slowly transition to the flowering. Most changes are happening internally and at this point are not visible, which is kind of what we want to more learn about, is the stuff going on inside the plant chemically rather than what we can actually see, because we've seen it millions of times, but what is actually happening? The plant will continue to grow during the first few weeks of flowering. This is often referred to as the stretch period. Continue to train the plant while they're still growing. This could involve tucking branches if using a scrog or trellis net, or try laying down the branches as necessary. Topping should never be done after switching to the flower stage, which is true. The period of recovery is too long. It's going to stress out your plant too much, and it's going to take out away from your yield overall. So don't do that shit. I recommend continuing with the vegetative stage nutrients during the first 2 weeks of flowering, as the plant is still using quite a bit of nitrogen at this point. If you are using a nutrient system like Flora Series, then follow their transitioning dosing. So I've never actually heard of a transition dosing chart, but that would be interesting to look into. And during this grow, I think I might actually try that recommendation. I'll keep this in mind, and I'll probably make a clip of this. You should probably think about using your veg nutrients for the first 2 weeks of flower before you see those bud sites. Maybe a couple days before you think they're going to, you should switch over, or maybe you should do a slow transition. Try to find a new way to grow your plants. It's no different than training in the gym. You got to train in all kinds of different ways. Get your body really moving and used to different stuff, and it's no different for these plants. Every strain is different. Every strain is going to react differently to something. So try a couple different ways of transitioning your flower nutrients, because up until now, I've switched everything on the day. The day it goes 12-12, the nutrients also get switched. I count the first day of flower, it is flower. So maybe I shouldn't do that. At least according to this. Week 2. You may notice the first white pistils forming on your cannabis plant during the second week of flowering. It can take up to 3. I've usually seen 3. These little hairs are what will eventually develop into buds or cannabis plant your cannabis plant gradually shifts its focus from developing roots, leaves, and stems to developing flowers. Keep in mind that the buds will start to become more fragrant at this point, so take precautions if necessary. Also, the likelihood of mold increases substantially during the flower stage, so monitor closely. And that's because of the moisture that actually gets trapped in between the buds. The bud structure is a very big point to worry about. Really getting your environment dialed in, maybe thinking about lowering that humidity, definitely getting more airflow at this point. Just upgrade stuff a little bit just to accommodate the extra moisture, because man, it's going to kill you. And if you're getting value out of this so far, go ahead and leave a like. Definitely appreciate those. It helps in the YouTube algorithm and also makes me feel good inside. The plant is likely using quite a bit of nitrogen, so either mix. Wow. Yeah, still using quite a bit of nitrogen in week 2. Either mix in the vegetative and flowering nutrients together during this week at half strength, or stick with the vegetative nutrients for one last week before you actually get into that full transition into flower. I always defoliate and lollipop each plant after the second week of flowering. This is the second major defoliation. The first is done 2 weeks prior to switching to flower. And personally, I think I would want to, what I do is I do the defoliation 2 weeks before flower, but I also do one 3 days before switching to flower. I make sure to give it a little bit of a recovery period from all that stress and put it into the flowering stage. Therefore, it can start its stretch and also heal during those 2 weeks before I start to see bud sites most of the time. And then I will be putting in a plant that has been properly defoliated without giving it enough time to refill in or become unmanageably dense. Is what I would do. I would not do any heavy defoliation as they would be describing. Lollipopping after bud sites is a big no-no in my book. I wouldn't advise that. These won't receive enough light to produce the quality of buds. Better to just remove the plant, and it's just talking about lollipopping the bottom third of your plant here, and just removing all of that stuff, yada yada, whenever you decide to do it. Week 3 of the flower stage for cannabis, your cannabis plants will continue to decrease their upward growth and will eventually come to a complete stop. The plant begins focusing all its energy and into developing buds. You may now see the first indications of actual buds beginning to form in the areas on the plant where you have previously seen them white hairs and pistils. They'll likely still just look like balls of white hair though. Yeah, and they do that for quite a while. I'm sure they're going to mention it in week 4, but week 5 is normally where I start to really see things swell up. So I'm sure that's going to be really exciting once we get into here. Begin giving the flowering nutrients only by this point. I recommend starting at a half recommended dose. Keep an eye out for nutrient deficiencies or nutrient burn and adjust accordingly. And yeah, it might be a good idea to start at half dose for the flowering as well. Make sure that you're giving the plant enough that it's going to be fed and it's going to be happy, while at the same time not risking giving it too much. A nutrient deficiency is just like an underwatering. You would rather have it not enough than too much, because a nut burn, that will never come back. A nutrient deficiency, it actually can heal those quite easily. Like you can see it with a mobile nutrient like nitrogen. The bottom of the plant will go yellow, but if you keep up the nitrogen, if you keep feeding it more nitrogen, those leaves will either remain green or they will come back to being green. Or would they? I don't know. Probably not. Whew, so jumping right into week 4, your cannabis plant is likely stopped growing altogether, and you are concentrating all of your energy developing on buds. By week 4 of flowering period, white hairs will protrude from the buds, but the buds themselves will get bigger and fatter every day. Your plants will now create more trichomes, and more and larger buds develop, increasing the odors intensely. So it's packing on them terpenes, throwing out some trichomes, doing some crazy stuff with the hair, starting to get swelled up and really start to pack on that weight. Things are looking really exciting for this plant in week 4. It's one of my favorite weeks because it really tells you what this plant is going to kind of be. And the exciting part for me, I feel like, is that this is like 15% of what it's going to be. Like, it's still on the loading screen and it's moving really slow. So you just have that built up anticipation with hopefully favorable results and great enjoyable terpenes and trichome density and production. Whew. You won't have to focus on training your plants any longer, which is my favorite part of the flower stage, if I'm being 100% honest, because they will have ceased growing for the branches that you previously tied down. You may now consider holding them up if they need structural support. And if you actually have your branches tied down, I would leave them tied down because most plants, they will still stretch towards the light. It might not happen as much in flower because you do have those flowers weighing it down, but I would also not risk creating a point where the buds end up touching for a long period of time, because what if I'm not vigilant in the garden and I don't see it? I would rather just have those arms be spread out a little bit and be able to have good airflow through those branches. So I don't know about that, but you definitely can also tie them up and use your light as an anchor. I've seen people do that just to make sure those buds don't fall down either. Week 5 of the flowering stage for cannabis. You should see substantial thickening of your buds during the 5th week of flowering. Be sure to monitor the humidity in your grow area as the chance of mold increases with each week of flowering. A relative humidity around 40% is ideal during this period. So you want it really dry in that room. You don't want your plant to be at risk of any sort of over humidity and being able to harbor an environment where it can grow mold spores. That would not be ideal. Your plant will now emit an exceedingly potent odor. If you grow indoors, be sure to exhaust fan and carbon filter are functioning correctly. If odor is a concern, consider adding an intake fan at the bottom of the tent and closing off passive vents to prevent odor leaking. So yeah, if you're trying to grow a stealth grow and you don't want people to know you're growing so they can't smell it, you're definitely going to need to get yourself a carbon filter. You're definitely going to need to make sure that no air is leaking anywhere else, because you do want to have all that scent eliminated, and hopefully there's no light leaks in your tent either, because that can cause stress and whatnot. Your plants will be producing trichomes rapidly at this point, and they'll appear clear or translucent when observing with a magnifying glass, which fortunately now we have great technology and we have a supercomputer phone in our pockets, and we can just take a picture close up of that bud and start to actually see those trichomes develop. You can see them. Every picture I've taken is pretty much with my phone, and I've taken a couple through a magnifying glass, but you can really see how those trichomes are developing overall and how things are going on the plant. And I've actually judged harvests based on pictures I've taken with my phone, and it is pretty good. It's a pretty good way of going about it. Now, it's obviously still fun to go and see that close-up of those trichomes and really see what's going on in there. It's a really crazy world down there, man. If you've never seen it, you gotta. At week 6, the buds will keep expanding and moving closer to maturity. Common issues during this time include bud rot, which I've lost a plant to, which can be prevented by good airflow and low humidity. Keep an eye on the plants, on the buds for the signs of the rot. If you see any, remove the buds immediately. Monitor the plant closely and ensure it is getting enough nutrients and water. Be sure to keep an eye out for pests and disease. You may need to treat the plant with insecticides or fungicides if problems arise, which hopefully you don't need to spray anything in flower. It really should be the easiest stage, but then again, the lack of actually doing things in your garden and not being able to do that IPM so well, and not being able to do a lot of these things to your plant, it takes your plant and puts it in a risky situation and puts it at risk for all of these things that could go wrong. So while it's easy on the human body and the energy that we exhibit and put in these plants in the veg stage, it could be all for naught in the end, just based on all of these factors that we're reading about here and know in the back of our minds that keep us awake at night. The pistils will begin darkening and flattening if they haven't already to an orange or amber color. The trichomes will continue to transition from clear or milky white. I'm just making sure my stuff's actually charging. 1 second. Okay, yeah, it is. The screen is just still dark. Alright, I guess we gotta run with it. In veg, I'm damn near abusive. Trim lollipopping training and then rest till week 4. Then another haircut and solid feeding to let them know they can recover. This is when I like to add CO2 if you can. I'm actually looking into getting CO2. I'm looking into getting one of those exhale fungus bags, and apparently they last 6 months. I thought they would last like a couple of weeks. So I'm excited for this next payday to come through so I can order one of those on Amazon and actually put it in there in my 5x2 space and have it giving those girls some CO2 because they really deserve it. They've been growing well without it. I cannot wait to see what they do when I put that in there. And also good to see you, Legion's Laboratory. Happy you made it. Leaves will likely begin gradually yellowing during week 6 and 7 regardless of the nutrient deficiencies. This is perfectly normal as harvest approaches because it is getting to the point of senescence. It is starting to die. It is starting to go through those last stages of maturity and really just show us what it is going to be. The theme of week 7 is patience. There isn't much change, but the buds keep getting fatter, the pistils will continue to darken, and the trichomes will transition gradually from white to an amber color. If not already, you will most certainly see leaves turning yellow. This is close to harvest depending on the strain. You may also see the leaves turn other colors as well. Yes, I like seeing the purples, the reds, the yellows, everything. The purples. Week 8 plus of the flowering cannabis stage. Oh wait, I skipped a little. Nope, I didn't. Okay, here's the paragraph. This is in week 7. In week 7, I typically stop feeding and begin the flushing the plants with water only to remove excess nutrients that have built up in the growing medium. The plants will utilize most of their accumulated nutrients between flushing and harvesting. producing sweeter and more fragrant buds, which it's not really shown to actually do that. And scientifically speaking, if you do not flush, the buds won't taste or smell as good and will be harsher on your throat when smoking. That's not my experience. That's not what happened to me. I did use a lot of strains in that experiment. I did it to an entire round of harvest, and I noticed no difference. But you don't need to take my word for that. That's perfectly fine. So week 8 plus, at this stage in flowering, At this stage in the flowering process, the buds will be fully developed and the plant will be preparing itself for harvest. You will also get to see the maximum color expression of the plant. The bud should be large and dense, and the leaves will continue to grow yellow and turn other shades. In general, the final weeks of flowering are when marijuana plants gain most of their weight. At this time, the plant may be ready for harvesting depending on the flavors and effects desired. I typically give them an extra week and harvest after week 9 for the majority of the strains, which I've had plants like White Widow, I've had to go all the way into week 10 or week 11. It does really depend. So this didn't get super deep into like science stuff, but it was a lot of good information and a couple of good suggestions for transitioning into the flower stage and making that a little bit easier on the plant and giving it what it actually needs. Because if you're not giving your plant what it actually needs, what's the point in growing? And if you are not succeeding, it usually means you're doing something wrong. But there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that you don't have experience under your belt or you don't know any better. And that's perfectly fine as long as you strive to grow and all that good stuff. But that's just my 2 cents. Looking for another article here, week by week cannabis flower stage timeline, probably super similar to what we were going on. The problem is with a lot of this stuff is when it comes to flowering cannabis. Oh shit, bro! Look at this. My video comes up as a suggestion. Explaining the flower stage of medicinal plants, and you can go check that video out right now. I didn't realize it was going to come up in the Google for some reason. Google 3-stage cannabis flowering timeline 3-stage with pictures. Wow, that's a lot of that's a pop-up thingy. Talking about the pre-flowers, which are those little pistils that you sex the plant by. Gotta make sure those are out, man. I've seen a couple people in the comments mention that they don't wait until the pistils shoot out because I guess they just want to shoot it into flower faster, which that's fine. But you need to know that you're not giving that plant its best shot at being its best self. My dude. Nope, can't do it. Can't do it. I can't X out all those pop-ups. They keep on copping on my dick. I tried though, gosh darn it. Says how long does it take to grow a marijuana plant? It says generally speaking it takes anywhere from 10 to 32 weeks, which who's growing one in 10 weeks? That's like just getting out of the seedling stage, and then right when it hits veg, like throwing it into flower. But I guess people start it on 12 on 12 sometimes when they're doing like a sea of green technique. So maybe that's where they get that number. Or about 3 to 8 months. To grow a weed plant from seed to harvest, there will be quicker if you start with a clone or an autoflower seed. The biggest variability is how long the marijuana plant takes to grow. It will happen in the vegetative stage, after the seedling phase, and before flowering. So it says flowering is 8 to 11 weeks. My grow room warranty. Well, gosh darn, that's been expired for 5 years. I better pick up the phone. Could you imagine if you had a warranty on your grow room? I don't think I may, buy seeds, germinate seeds. Okay. Oh shit, I did plant my shit early. Here it says, okay, so it has this chart, right? And it's just telling you when to, do everything when it comes to growing outdoors, by the seasons. So we got January is buy your seeds and get stocked up. February to April is buying seeds and germinating seeds. And then May and June entails germinating seeds and also moving plants into the ground and outdoors, which this could make a good video too, so I want to take a note of it, and also could make a pretty decent clip. So we got the middle of May to the middle of August, we have top/prune plants. It says May 15th to August 15th for topping and pruning plants, and also moving the plants in the ground. May 1st to July 11th, or July 1st, excuse me. And then all the way from September 1st to November 15th is a giant harvest window through those 3 months. Which September, there's a little bit of hunting season. There's like 2 days. And then October and November is full hunting season, and also parts of December. So I'll be super busy in September, October, November. And also those are coincidentally some of the biggest months for the channel when it comes to actual views and watch time. So I'm really excited for that point in this year, just because of how much is actually going on. So let's see if we can jump back up to the flower stage and see what they have to say about it. Okay, how to tell when your cannabis plant is ready for bloom, which is something I feel like a lot of people get wrong. I've done a couple videos about this, and I've been told I'm wrong about how I feel plants should go into the flower stage, but I don't really ask anything unrealistic. It's not that crazy. Just wait until they mature. When growing outdoors, weed plants will start flowering or blooming after the summer solstice, when the daily amount of light starts to decrease. The plant will start developing pre-flowers as mentioned above, telling you that flower has initiated. Okay, so this is outdoor, so it just kind of happens. I talk about indoor, when you should consciously change the light. Okay. North Atlantic seeds. Man, and AC Infinity are having huge sales today. Happy 420, everybody. I have to call it a night. Well, it was good seeing you, Legion's Laboratory. I'm glad you were able to make it and participate in the chat. I hope you have a great 420. I unfortunately have to work today, so I'm probably also going to be calling it a night pretty soon. But I did want to bust out this live and talk to you guys about the flower stage because I gosh darn love it. But I hope you have a good night, man. Peace out. And if anyone else is ready to hit up the chat, you can say peace out to Legion's Laboratory as well. Whew. When do buds grow the most? Buds typically grow the most toward the end of the flowering life cycle. You probably won't notice much bud developing out of the beginning of the flower stage, and it will slowly go down towards the end of its cycle. When buds become fully formed, once buds have reached the full maturation, it's time to harvest your marijuana. How long it takes to harvest the buds depends on how many factors, including harvest method and how many plants you harvest, and also how much they yielded and how lazy you are, which I am very lazy, so it takes a long time for me to harvest my plants, especially by hand. So hopefully I can stop doing that. But it doesn't seem like we're gonna get the information I was hoping I was gonna find. But I hope that you guys were able to take out some key moments to this stream. I hope that you consider joining the Express Member Club. And if you like this, leave a like. This was the cannabis flower stage life cycle, and I will see you next time. Thank you very much.